Luka is an amazing character in Honkai Star Rail, and I do think he might be more versatile than a lot of people give him credit for. So in today's video, I'm going to go over what Luka does and how building Luka can benefit a lot of people's accounts. So to start out with what he does, firstly I'm going to talk about his skill. So his skill will damage a single enemy. It also has a 100% base chance to inflict the bleed DOT. And the damage for it is based on Luka's attack. So, no matter what build you go for Luka, you probably are going to be putting a good amount of attack on him so that he can benefit from, the bleed damage as well. Then, for his ultimate will give him 2 stacks of Fighting Spirit, which we'll get into more with his talent. He also gets a 100% base chance to increase a single target's damage received for 3 turns. And he also deals physical damage to that enemy as well. And the increase to single target damage received is going to be really nice, because just anyone on the team who's damaging, whether it be both Luka or any other character you might have on the team, they're going to do more damage to that enemy for any type of damage, not just DOT, which is a key difference when comparing him to Sampo, who is the other really good DOT 4-star. Then, going into his talent talks mainly about his Fighting Spirit mechanic, where he will get 1 stack of Fighting Spirit whenever he uses his basic attack or skill, and once he has 2 or more stacks of Fighting Spirit, he'll be able to use an enhanced basic attack. He also does cap out at 4 stacks of Fighting Spirit, so you can't stack it infinitely. But the enhanced basic attack will consume 2 stacks of Fighting Spirit, and it also does detonate bleed DOT, so you definitely want to make sure that the enemy has bleed on it before you use that enhanced basic attack, so that you can get the maximum amount of damage out of it as well. And not just that as well, but for the enhanced basic attack, I believe it's with his final major trace. Because the first part of his enhanced basic attack is like a flurry of punches, similar to his normal basic attack, but for every time you punch, you have a 50% chance of getting an additional punch, which would just be an additional hit for damage. And while the damage might not look, as crazy, it definitely, does add up a little bit. So it is also an important thing to have him with that last major trace. So now I want to go on to the 2 main build options for Luka. And, I think him having this variety is going to be really good, just so he can work very well on different kind of teams. So the first build option is the one I feel like a lot of people looked at immediately when Luka came out, which was the DOT build, because he did come out with Kafka and Sampo being on that banner as well. A lot of players were going more towards DOT type builds, which is perfectly valid because the DOT playstyle is super fun, and I'm still using my Kafka a lot even after 1.2. And being able to pair that, with Luka doing great DOT, being able to detonate his own bleed, and then, Sampo boosting DOT damage to enemies with his ult, and then Kafka being able to detonate those DOTs as well, that makes a really good build. But then the other build, which, players also started to experiment with pretty early, once Luka came out, is the break effect build. Because Luka does do some pretty solid, weakness break damage, and especially with the enhanced basic attack as well being part of his arsenal. And the break effect build really just focuses on increasing the damage of your main damage dealer. And this build I think is very good as well, just because if you're pairing it with, your main damage dealer, you can pretty much run the break effect build with most teams in the game. Like if you're running a more standard damage dealer, someone like, Imbibitor Lunae, Seala, Blade, those kind of damage dealers, being able to increase the enemy's damage taken is also really nice. Plus also being able to capitalize on doing a lot of break damage. And since, physical DOT is fairly strong just as an effect on its own, even without the DOT teams, you definitely are going to be able to have some pretty good damage coming out of Luka being like a kind of support, kind of sub DPS kind of role when you're running the break effect build with just like a standard DPS. So, to wrap it all up here, I do think that when it comes to DOT comps, Luka is not as good as Sampo. In most situations, I do think, while Luka does have certain situations where he thrives in, because his focus is on single targets, and with the way the current endgame and just current enemies have been in endgame content, they tend to favor characters that are able to attack multiple enemies at once. So Luka definitely does have his place, but in a lot of like relevant situations now, Sampo is just going to be better. But even with that, Luka is still going to be very viable, especially if you're able to land that ultimate, get that damage reduction, or that not damage reduction, that damage multiplier on the enemy, and plus also just him being able to do some good break damage as well is going to be very solid for a lot of teams. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you all think about Luka. I definitely want to invest in him some more at some point. I invested in him a little bit when Kafka came out, but I ended up just using Sampo for the most part because I did E6 him. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about Luka. But with that, everyone, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, definitely be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell. But with that, I will see you all next time.